Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Stool Sports. It is Sunday, January 25th. Not a good day on the show yesterday. I got to run through this quick. It started out horrible. I mean, the finish to the day wasn't too bad. It was a 3-4 day. College basketball definitely hurt. Sacred Heart never in position to cover that thing. I think they won somehow by 1 point, but they were never close to covering that thing. So very unfortunate in that one. I do believe that I could look at the box score real quick. I do think that there was something about that game that was a little bit off about how the game was played, like something misleading about it. Like I think there was something that, like some sort of outlier, if I remember correctly. No, not really. I don't really see it. Yeah, I don't know. Sacred Heart went to the free throw line way more. They had more field goal attempts in the game. Well, Niagara shot 58% from the field, so that's kind of where the difference came in. But Sacred Heart did get out-rebounded. I don't know. So that was a bad one. Dayton was never in position either. That was a loss. I think they lost outright, actually. Yes, bad game. Dayton, not even close. Richmond looked like they had chances to backdoor cover that thing, maybe, but they were not covering for most of the game and did not cover. So we started out 0-3. So the day was pretty much a loss right out of the gate with those losses. It's not fun at all when that happens. That game, Richmond shot terribly in the game. Like, they actually had more field goal attempts in the game than George Washington did, but they shot 39% from the field. George Washington hit 15 threes and shot 45% from three-point range, so that's really where it came in. Like, statistically, the game, I think, was close enough that Richmond probably should have covered that, but the shooting was just an outlier on both sides. Although I know George Washington does hit at a high percentage, but that was just ridiculous. We started turning it around. DePaul got the outright win. Fresno did not cover. So we were 1-4 at that point, although we won the rest of the games after that. Fresno looked like they had chances to cover in that game. They wound up losing it late. Grand Canyon pulled away late. Fresno just couldn't score, man. Grand Canyon won by double digits in the end. San Diego was able to come back and cover in their game because they were out of range for a lot of the game, but they came back and covered. Might have been one of those garbage time, just barely get back within the number type of covers, but when you're having a bad day, you'll take it, man. I think that is what it was. Like, Santa Clara, I think, just took their foot off the gas. I think we kind of got lucky on that one, but when you're playing a huge underdog like that, that is kind of part of the handicap. Like, if the favored is ahead by a big margin late in the game, they might just start packing it in, looking ahead to the next game. The look ahead is part of it. So San Diego did get there, and then we kind of got lucky on the Kings. I know the game went into overtime. The Kings were winning that game 2-0, so it was looking good right out of the gate, and then they were losing 3-2 later in the game after they blew that. The game was statistically close. The Kings had the game at the end, though. The Kings were winning the game 4-3, And the Blues tied the game with 2 minutes left, which that always pisses me off when you have that late goal against you that sends into overtime. The Kings luckily wound up winning in a shootout, but by the end of the game, they should have won the game probably, even though it was statistically close. They had the upper hand for more of the game than the Blues did, but it wasn't great when you have a favorite like that and it goes into overtime or whatever. You'd rather be on the underdog at that point, but whatever. Mr. Pinsey, what's up? Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Whoops. Yes. All right. Short board today. I got 2 plays. Sometimes I get into props and things like that for these NFL conference championships. I'll give you a couple of prop ideas, but I'm not going to give them out as plays. I have one play. It's on a side in one of the NFL games, and then I do have an NBA play today, and that is it. All right. We do have some college basketball today, but it's a very short basketball board. A few of the games that were supposed to be today actually got played yesterday, and then there were a couple more games that were supposed to be today that got postponed until I don't know when because of the weather, including this IPFW IUPUI game. That's one of the postponements. I believe this St. Francis New Haven game also got postponed. So we only actually have 5 college basketball games today, where it would have been probably about 10. But again, a few of them got played yesterday and some are being postponed. So, we could talk about college basketball first. We do have an afternoon ESPN 2 game, which of course is in Florida, where they're completely unaffected by all of this weather. It's like Florida's just walled off. Nope, it's 70 degrees down here. We're supposed to get 2 to 3 feet of snow where I am up here in Massachusetts, so that's going to be awesome. Being on the coast of Massachusetts, we get absolutely battered by these snowstorms recently, man. I don't know what happened because, when I was a kid, I remember, the coast being a little bit more mild usually during the snowstorms and, inland got more snow, but now it's, the opposite is always the case. I don't know what happened. The weather's being controlled, man. But Florida Atlantic at South Florida, this game should be an interesting game in the American kind of in-state rivals here as well. FAU's on a 5-game win streak, and they're atop the American Conference right now, even though I don't think that they're really the best team in the conference. They're close. They're going on the road here to play South Florida. FAU, I think, is more in the, I believe they're more in the Miami-ish area somewhere over there. And South Florida, I think, is, despite their name, I think they're near Tampa. But that's where FAU's going here. They beat Tulane in their last game. Tulane's not really as good as they look. They've already kind of dropped quite a bit in the standings. So that win is just, I think, going to be kind of a momentum continuer. I think both teams are going to show up for this. FAU does play Memphis next, which is a big game, but this is a big game as well on its own here. South Florida just won at UAB, and now they're coming back home from that. Decent win there for them. But again, I don't see either team overlooking this game. But the one thing you're going to notice is that FAU has the better record here and only 1 conference loss, and yet South Florida is a 4.5-point favorite. So that pretty much catches my eye. The odds makers are telling you that South Florida is actually the slightly better of the 2 teams, despite what the records look like. So that kind of has me leaning in their direction. And on top of that, just kind of because they're the better team, and sometimes I kind of default to that when I don't really have another angle to look at here. Obviously, I'm avoiding this game, but I kind of lean towards laying it with South Florida, but they are down from 6 to 5, and the money looks like it is on FAU for what it's worth. 50% of the tickets and 76% of the cash on FAU. But when I see a line that doesn't look right like that, I usually sort of trust the odds makers on it, and that the odds makers are telling you something to basically not believe what the records are saying, But the money is disagreeing with that read, so that's a tough game. I don't want to do anything with it. Chicago State at Mercyhurst is the ugliest game by far. Not a whole lot to say about this game, just that it's happening. Chicago State hasn't won in conference yet in the Northeastern Conference. They're really, really bad, though. But I think you might still be getting an effort out of them just because you don't want to go an entire season without winning a game. It's pretty embarrassing, so you continue to put in effort, I think, for that reason. They did just lose really badly by 21 at St. Francis, and St. Francis is not a good team either. So that was a particularly bad loss for Chicago State. So maybe they actually will show up with a little bit more intensity for this game against Mercyhurst. Mercyhurst on a couple of game win streak here. They just beat New Haven. They play New Haven again next. Not really a huge deal, but definitely Chicago State's probably pretty easy to overlook when they can't win any game at all. And you're asking a Mercyhurst team that's not a great team to, I assume, lay a bunch of points in this game. Yeah, they're a 10-point favorite here. I would probably lean towards taking the points with Chicago State, as ugly as that is. It's an extremely low total of 129. So, like, do you really want to put money on Mercyhurst winning by double digits with a total that low? Probably not. 67% of the tickets are on Mercyhurst, 58% of the cash on Chicago State. I do agree with that market read with taking the points, but that is not something I want to go anywhere near. We do have a couple of big conference games, just Big Ten games. Feels weird calling Oregon and Washington a Big Ten game, but that is what it is. Oregon at Washington on Peacock at 3 p.m. Eastern. These teams, I thought they were going to play twice this year because they're the old Pac-12 rivals, kind of, but I guess there are just too many teams in the Big Ten, so they don't do that. Oregon's going to be probably pretty desperate for a win here. They've lost 5 games in a row. Just took a double-digit loss at home to Michigan State, so they're staying out on the Pacific Coast here, going up to Seattle for this game. Oregon just having a very, very bad season, man. It might be a little bit more motivated coming into this one than Washington is. Neither team's really going anywhere fast. Washington did just go to Nebraska and lost by 10, which is a respectable loss. I think the game was a little bit out of hand, though. I think Washington made it look a little bit better than it was by the end of it. Like, they weren't close or anything like that, but Washington is having to travel across time zones back from playing that game, and they do have Illinois up next. They have to go back on the road to play Illinois, so to me, the spot does look a little bit worse for Washington here. The travel spot is definitely easier for Oregon. I would lean towards Oregon in this game. The money does not seem to agree. Washington did initially drop from 10 to 9 here, but we have 55% of the tickets on Oregon and 88% of the cash on Washington. The public doesn't really want to lay big numbers like this with teams with bad records like Washington. Oregon's record is still even worse, though, but I don't know. I just think this is going to be an ugly game, dude. The total is not high. It's in the mid-140s. I don't know. I just think the spot sets up a little bit better for Oregon, in my opinion, in that one, to at least come within that huge number there. Although the odds makers are telling you Oregon is just not good this year. Washington is the significantly better team, but that would be my read on that game. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. And then we have Southern Illinois at Evansville. Pretty ugly Missouri Valley game here. Southern Illinois is on a pretty bad skid right now, 4-game skid, but I think you can kind of explain that loss. They just had to Valparaiso. Not a good loss, but Southern Illinois had a really close game against Belmont the game prior to that, which was a big game. Belmont probably the best team in the conference. And Southern Illinois actually almost pulled off a season sweep of Belmont because they actually beat Belmont on the road. So the Southern Illinois team, they have the ability to beat the best team in the conference on the road. So the Southern Illinois team is not that bad. And they got caught in a letdown spot off of that Belmont win that they had. That's why they lost to UIC. They lost to Drake in overtime. Not a great loss there, but unfortunately for them, a loss nonetheless. And then they did lose to Belmont. That's somewhat expected. Again, Belmont is good, but they played them close again. That was at home, 5-point loss. And then I think they were hung over again after that, and that was the loss to Valpo. They'd already beaten Valpo once. So I'm kind of expecting a better performance from Southern Illinois in this one, even though they are playing Evansville, who's a very easy team to overlook. So you do potentially have to worry about who does Southern Illinois play next. They do play Northern Iowa, but Northern Iowa's kind of dropped down in the standings, so I don't think that's really that much of a cause for a look ahead at this point. Evansville is coming off a very, very ugly loss, though, to UIC, losing 76-49. Whenever you lose that badly, I think you are going to be focused coming into the next game. So I think both teams will show up with focus here. But if that's the case, I think I kind of have to lean towards Southern Illinois, the better team. They're laying 3 on the road, and I think it's a situation where the public won't even really want to do it to that extent. Like, why would you want to lay points with a below 500 team on the road, even though they're up against an even worse team? But we have 86% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on Southern Illinois. I don't think the public is really playing this game, to be honest. So I think most of the money that we're seeing on this is probably more on the professional side of things. I would lean to Southern Illinois as well. Like I said, it's not really, I don't want anything to do with it really, but I think in a situation like that where you have the better team that should be in a bounce back spot, that's the way that I see it. And then Peacock at 4 p.m., probably the best game out of all of these, although I think that FAU South Florida game is actually a pretty good game, but USC is at Wisconsin in this Big Ten game here. USC coming off that loss at home to Northwestern. We had Northwestern here on the show in that game. That was a win for us, an outright win as a 7-point underdog. USC was coming off playing Purdue really close, and they had this Wisconsin game on deck. So the handicap was USC was in a sandwich spot. Now that they just took that loss as a big favorite, the expectation is they will play a better game here and show up for a game against Wisconsin. But USC is going to be an underdog this time as well. Wisconsin is just on a roll right now. They just had an easy win over Penn State in their last game. They do play Minnesota next already for the second time, and that is kind of a rivalry game, so maybe there's a little bit of a look-ahead component there for Wisconsin. A little bit of a tough travel spot for USC, though, having to leave the Pacific Coast and go to a place that they don't usually play. Since USC's been in the Big Ten, I'm not even sure that they have had to play in Madison yet. The money looks like it is coming in on Wisconsin. They're up from 7 to 7 with juice here. 82% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on them. They will be the public side, though, and I think this is probably going to be the game that gets the most public attention, although it's going to overlap with football, so I'm not totally sure about that. But it is the biggest game out of the college basketball games. I kind of lean towards taking the points with USC. I think USC is sort of in the more desperate mode right now, too, as far as like the tournament resumes are concerned. Like USC is looking like they're in danger of maybe not making the tournament. And I think Wisconsin is more solidified in their tournament position at this point. So there is that as well. So potentially getting more effort out of the underdog here. I think I would lean to taking the points, but I do not like it at all. NHL, we have 6 games. There's one afternoon game on NHL Network. Colorado at Toronto. Colorado is coming off probably their worst loss of the season. Actually, the worst one was to Nashville, but this is still pretty bad. Losing by the same score as that one, 7-3. Colorado's lost 4 of their last 5 games, all at home, which is very bizarre. So for that reason, it might be good for them to just leave home. If things are not going well for you at home, fuck it, leave. Go somewhere else, focus on hockey. That's what they're doing here. They're going up to Toronto. Just took a hideous loss to Philadelphia. They did lose. The loss that started that bad stretch was really that loss against Toronto back at home, too. So this is a little bit of a quick road revenge spot for Colorado as well, because they lost at home to Toronto in overtime on the 12th. So this looks like a very focused spot to me for the Avalanche, and they are the better team here. But it does look like Toronto should be in a pretty focused spot as well. They're not going to overlook Colorado. And Toronto's lost 3 games in a row, all at home. They're going to definitely want to try to get a win on this homestand. And they're coming off a 6-3 loss themselves, although it was a big game against Vegas. But losing by 3 at home, a lot of times you will bounce back. So I'm staying off of the game. Hold on a second. I just saw something. Something looked weird on the college basketball board here. Oh, Tulsa and Rice. Yeah. I was seeing the red. I'm like, what? Yeah, that game got played yesterday. I don't know. That was weird. All right. But yes, both teams should be focused here, but Colorado is still the better team, and I would have to lean towards Colorado if I was going to play this game, but they're a big favorite here. Up from -170 to -178. 78% of the tickets, 95% of the cash on them. Seems like the actual money is coming in on them. If you do want to do that, I mean, this might be one where you actually do, well, I would say maybe Colorado over their team total. Maybe that's not what you want to do, because both teams should be a little bit more focused on defense in a game like this after giving up a ton of goals. Both teams did in their last game. I don't know. I mean, Colorado, make your own -1 puck line maybe would be the approach there. Obviously, I don't want to touch the game myself, though. Devils at Kraken. New Jersey at Seattle. That sounds a little bit better. The Devils have won 3 games in a row. They've swept the road trip so far. So there is the potential that they kind of overlooked the last game of the road trip. They did just beat Seattle at home back on the 14th, which was unfortunate because I think we had Seattle here in that game in the New Jersey return home spot. But it might be a game where New Jersey does overlook them. That is possible. They only have Winnipeg up next, though, so it's not a huge game up next. Seattle's lost 5 of their last 6 games, and they're staying at home. So the spot to me does look a little bit better for Seattle to bounce back, although they are the worst of the 2 teams here. But I would prefer Seattle as the home dog in this one. The money looks like it kind of disagrees, though. New Jersey did drop from -130 to -125. 75% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on the Devils, though. But I think I would probably lean towards Seattle at the underdog price there. Vegas at Ottawa. Vegas just beat Toronto, like I said, on the road, 6-3. Ottawa, potentially they overlooked them. I mean, I don't know. They got Montreal up next and then Dallas when they come back home, and those are kind of bigger games. Ottawa still, I think, dealing with the Ullmark injury and whatever. They're just not having a great season. So it is possible that Vegas kind of overlooks them here. Ottawa did just get crushed by Carolina, but that was yesterday. So they're on the back-to-back, although there was actually a return home spot for Ottawa. They had been on the road for 3 games prior to that. So maybe part of the reason they lost that game. And I do talk about how when a team falls into that return home distraction spot and they don't do well in that return home spot because they get distracted by having family stuff to do, whatever. Sometimes they do play better in the next game. So I actually do probably lean to Ottawa here, but they're on the back-to-back. They did have a big game yesterday still. I don't really love it, and they are still playing a 3rd game in 4 days, 4th game in 6 days, and a 5th game in 8 days, and actually a 6th game in 9 days. And the last, most of them are in different cities, not all of them, most of them in different cities, though, with a road trip in the middle there. So it's been a very packed schedule for Ottawa, so I do worry about fatigue coming into play there. The money looks like it is coming in on Vegas. They're up from -135 to -142. 91% of the tickets, 98% of the cash. I do probably still lean towards Ottawa as the underdog, though. And their lack of rest is going to be somewhat factored into the line, even though I do use it as a handicapping tool as well, because I think it sometimes doesn't get factored in enough. But in that game, I do lean to the home dog as well, anti-public as well, but it's not a strong opinion. Pittsburgh at Vancouver. Pittsburgh has won all 3 games on their road trip so far. They just beat Edmonton 6-2. That is a very satisfying win. And now they've had 2 days off, so it is possible they overlooked the last game of the road trip here against a pretty weak Vancouver team. Looks like it could be a letdown spot. Maybe a couple of days off are going to hurt Pittsburgh's momentum here, so I don't love the spot for Pittsburgh. For Vancouver, they are staying at home. They did just lose to New Jersey at home, and they gave up 5 goals in the game, so they're having a really rough time of it. Vancouver's really not playing well. They've lost 12 of their last 13 games, I think is what that is. So I think you probably will get effort out of Vancouver at the very least, and I think I do lean to the Vancouver side in this one. Obviously, they're a home dog here. We don't see the percentages on this yet. Pittsburgh's a -145 favorite. I'd probably take the home dog in that one. A lot of home dog leans in this one. The only one that I am not leaning towards is Toronto out of those, but I don't really have much of an opinion on any of these. Every game has a road favorite, actually, except Anaheim, Calgary. And that's one where you might expect there to also be a road favorite, but that is not the case. Florida at Chicago. Florida's coming off a big game yesterday. They beat Minnesota on the road in overtime. Now Florida's playing a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities. The first 2 of those both went into overtime and shootout. Looks like a pretty bad spot for Florida, man. Might be a spot where Chicago can catch them in a bad spot. Chicago will be the more rested team here, but Chicago, after beating Carolina in a shootout on Thursday, they played the back-to-back, and we faded them. And Really, they got dominated statistically in the game by Tampa Bay at home, but they took that game into a shootout, and we took the loss because we had Tampa Bay puck line. Very unfortunate. I thought it was a really good spot to take Tampa in that one. Chicago still put in a big effort in that one, man, although it was also a misleading final because Tampa Bay really dominated them statistically. So it would be a spot where normally I'd be looking to fade Chicago as well. So I think it's a bad spot for both teams. Chicago is still playing a third game in 4 days at the very least, although staying at home for the last two. The money sort of indicating on Florida. They're down from minus 145 to minus 135 here. 86% of the tickets on them, 93% of the cash on them. I kind of lean to Chicago in this one as the home dog, but it's a spot where I just really have to avoid both teams. And then we have Anaheim at Calgary here, and this is the one game where the lesser team is actually favored slightly. Calgary is, although not by a full home ice advantage. Anaheim is coming into this game on 6 wins in a row. They're coming up beating Seattle, not exactly a big win, but we faded Anaheim in that game because they'd beaten Colorado the game before that. So maybe there is going to be some sort of delayed letdown here, and Anaheim does play Edmonton next, so that is a bigger game. So it does look like they could overlook Calgary in this spot. Calgary is just staying at home, and they've lost multiple games in a row here. They've lost 3 games in a row at home, so I think they're going to be focused here. This is the end of the homestand as well, and they've only scored 1 goal in each of the last 3 games. I mean, I know Calgary, is not an offensive juggernaut, but I would have to lean to Calgary in this game. This is actually probably the strongest out of all the hockey games today that Calgary is. There's a huge, it looks like there's a pros versus Joes dichotomy here in a huge way. 85% of the tickets are on Anaheim. I mean, it looks pretty tempting to grab Anaheim at basically pick the winner price, even a slight dog price, but 89% of the cash on Calgary. I would definitely lean to Calgary in that one. And I believe Anaheim is not very good on the road, if I'm not mistaken. They're below 500. Calgary is actually above 500 at home, including the overtime losses. So Calgary is definitely better at home, and Anaheim is worse on the road. So that does help the Calgary case in that one. That's not on my card, but that is if you're going to play any hockey game today, that would be my recommendation. NBA, we got some afternoon action as well, although the first game is Sacramento at Detroit. Oh, God. Sacramento is coming off a close call at Cleveland, man. I did lean to Sacramento plus the points in that game. They definitely covered. They almost won the game, actually, at Cleveland. So Sacramento's coming off one of those games, man. You have a huge dog, a double-digit dog, came really close to being able to pull off an upset in the game. So you want to look to typically fade that team coming off a game like that. So Sacramento is in a spot like that. They're playing Detroit. Now, they're not going to overlook Detroit, but the worry is that Sacramento's just not going to have much left in the tank after putting in that huge effort. But the problem is Detroit is coming off a big game themselves. They just played Houston, big game. That did result in a loss, though, and they did lose a 4-game win streak, and they're staying at home. You could worry about the win streak being over, and maybe it will hang Detroit over a little bit. And they do have a pretty big game up next against Denver to start the road trip, although I don't think Jokic is going to be back yet. But, yeah, I have to stay off the game. I think I would probably lean to Detroit, though. I mean, they are still the better team. If you're looking at 2 teams that are kind of in bad spots, I think Detroit laying the points is probably still the correct side here, but I don't want to touch the game. I think both teams are in bad spots. The Pistons are up from 12.5 to 13.5 here. 55% of the tickets, 84% of the cash on them, so the money looks like it is agreeing with me on Detroit in that one. Denver at Memphis, I almost wanted to make a play on this one. Denver just pulled off an upset at Milwaukee, but there's something not right with Giannis, man. Giannis left the game briefly, came back in. He has a calf injury again, man. He played through it for the rest of the game, but that's part of the reason why Denver wound up winning the game, and that wound up being a road upset win for Denver, pulling off the upset, as 6-point underdogs, I think. Now Denver has a 3rd straight road game. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days, 4th game in 6 days, all in different cities, and they have Detroit up next in 2 days. So it is a bad spot for Denver for sure. Now the thing about Denver, though, that might mitigate this a little bit is there are going to be we have to look at what's going on with the injury situation for Denver. Just looking at the spot, I think the spot is very favorable to Memphis, though. Memphis came back home from that Europe trip that they had. They lost to Atlanta. They lost again to New Orleans, and that's what they're coming off of, a home loss to New Orleans. So you got to think Memphis is going to show some focus here. I know they play Houston tomorrow, but you don't want to be losing like this at home, man. So I think the spot is definitely better for Memphis. But you go to look at the line here. Memphis, I was expecting them to be around where the opener was, a 2-point favorite, but they're a 4.5-point favorite here, and it's going up higher. So the money is coming in on Memphis. I don't disagree with it. I would still probably lean towards Memphis laying the points here, but I worry because the line is a little bit higher than it would be because we do have some injuries on the side of the Nuggets. 54% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the Grizzlies. So the money is agreeing with the Grizzlies. Now, we already know that Jokic is out, but that's not what I'm talking about. So, yes, Jokic is out, but Aaron Gordon is now out. He played in the game against Milwaukee, and he's now out. So I think that is part of the reason why the line is moving like this, because he's basically their best player without Jokic in the lineup. Now he's out. But that worries me, of course, because that worries me as far as the Memphis side, because I always talk about the injured player spot where your best player goes down. A lot of times you'll step your game up a little bit, and you're getting additional line value on that team, So that's kind of the spot that the Nuggets are in here. So I am worried about it. And then we have Jamal Murray and Valanciunas both didn't play in the Milwaukee game, and they both might play in this game. So that could go both ways. Like when you have guys returning to the lineup for Denver, that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, right? So you could argue that's like a reverse injured player type of spot where, these guys are coming back. They have been in and out of the lineup. It's going to be like a chemistry shift, whatever. Like it might be negative for Denver, but I don't know, man. I mean, if you have two of your better players potentially coming back and they're rested and they both played recently, I think both of them played in the game before the Milwaukee game. So it's not like they were out for an extended period of time. So I tend to view that more as a positive for Denver in this case. Multiple of their best players coming back, and they might both play here, and they only missed one game. So a lot of moving pieces in that game. I have to stay away from it, but I do lean to Memphis generally in that game. It's just I think the number is a bit too high at this point. Golden State at Minnesota. I handicapped this game yesterday, so I'm going to try to not really repeat myself. You guys can go back and see what I talked about yesterday. The handicap doesn't really change here. This game got postponed because the NBA is woke, and that is what it is. We have this dude who, wound up being killed by ICE. Yeah, like, dude, again, I mean, you see my Twitter. Like, I don't like either side in this. I'm not talking about the game. I don't want to get political on this show, really, but I don't like either side in that whole fiasco, right? Like, I don't like these radical left idiots that are all out there protesting this. Like, they have, at best, they're like completely misguided here and wrong about what they're protesting. Not protesting ICE for necessarily the right reasons, which would be that they're, like an arm of a tyrannical organization. But that's not what they're, like, the left are just doing it because it's, we're fighting to, have all these foreign people come into our neighborhood and whatever, which is ridiculous. But I think that dude, he did put himself in a terrible situation. I mean, I'm not saying that he like deserved it or whatever, but I am saying that it was stupidity on the part of him. And I think that both sides escalated the situation, as is always the case with situations like that. I'm not taking a side in it, but I also think it's really, really stupid for the NBA to take a side in it and make the whole thing political and, we're going to postpone the Minnesota game for that reason. It's all totally stupid, man. Now it's on NBA TV here, 5:30 p.m., Mr. Pinsey, Steve Kerr's son got killed. Did he really? I killed by ICE? I did not know that. Steve Kerr makes all these like really, really stupid political points. Dude, you're a basketball coach. Just shut up and focus on basketball, please. I'm old enough, dude. I remember Kerr playing. I'm old enough. I watched the Bulls back when he was playing, the Michael Jordan era, etc. But anyway, as far as this game is concerned, you can see what I said about the game yesterday. It doesn't really change much with the game being moved to today. Golden State is still coming off losing to Dallas in a game where they were a favorite, and they're going to be looking for a win here, of course. And it's going to be extra motivation for Golden State because Minnesota's the team that eliminated them from the playoffs last year. So it's playoff revenge. They played once this year, but Minnesota won. So Golden State. Oh, yes, Nick Kerr. I forgot about him. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, not to be confused with Nick Kurtz on the Homeless Athletics baseball. Nick Kurtz is a good player, man. The Athletics baseball team. Golden State, yeah. So they still have playoff revenge in mind here for Minnesota eliminating them from the playoffs. That is a big motivating factor still for Golden State here, and I think that's kind of what pushed me to their side yesterday. I didn't give it out as a play or anything, but just for an opinion. Minnesota's also in a positive spot here, though. They've lost 4 games in a row. They returned home from a road trip, and they lost to Chicago as a favorite. Bad loss for Minnesota, but it was a bad spot. Return home spot. The only thing that kept me off of giving out Chicago as a play in that game was Josh Giddey returned in the game. So it was a reverse injured player spot for Chicago because he'd been out for like a month. So I think you were going to get less value on Chicago in that case. Although I told you guys to play it in the morning if you were going to play it, where you got +9 on Chicago. So that would have been the better move, but it didn't even matter because they went outright anyway. But now Minnesota's coming up with that. I think it is a bounce back spot for them. They do have, maybe the handicap changes slightly just because they do have extra rest, and the extra rest is going to help break that momentum up a little bit more, that losing momentum that they're on. Now, one other thing that's interesting about this is the line was 6 in this game yesterday, and now it is, it's on the extra board here. Now it's 7. It's gone down from 7.5 to 7. Yesterday it was like 5.5, 6. Like, you're telling me the line deserves to be a full point higher for no real reason other than that the game got postponed yesterday? That doesn't really make sense to me, so I have to still lean to taking the points of Golden State in this one, even though the money seems like it's disagreeing with it. 62% of the tickets, 84% of the cash on the T-Wolves. The money's coming into the T-Wolves. I don't really agree with it, man. So that's my opinion on the game. Of course, that's the one televised game today because it's going to be the most politicized, so that's great. Steve Kerr is going to say something stupid. But anyway, yeah, that's that game. Will, what's up, man? Thank you for the shout out for the LP debate where the debate questions basically single-handedly destroyed Jacob Hornberger, although I like to take credit for it. In the middle of the debate, I was playing the role of like making Josh look sane. He is sane. Like, I love Josh Smith, but I was like I was being a more extreme version of Josh in the debate where Josh is like, I respect Jacob, but he's got this wrong. And then I come out, I'm like, I don't respect Jacob. Like, he's definitely wrong about this. I do not agree with you about the Broncos game, which you're not going to like what I have to say about this, but I have a very strong opinion on that game. You already know what I'm going to give out as a play in that game. I think it is an extremely strong play on the Denver Broncos today. Curry's questionable. Which Curry? They have too many Currys, man. The Warriors are like an Indian restaurant. Yes, you're right. Steph Curry is day-to-day. He'll play, man. I mean, he didn't play yesterday. I mean, yeah, that's like the game got postponed, so he has extra rest. These guys are all listed as game-time decisions. They're all going to play, except I guess Kuminga is out again. He just started playing again, and now he's out again. I don't know what's... Actually, that might be the reason for the line move, because I don't think Kuminga was supposed to be out yet. Like, as the game was scheduled yesterday, I think he was supposed to play, so maybe that's why the line moved. But does Kuminga get that much respect? The line's going to move 1 point just because of Kuminga? I don't really think so. I don't know. Actually, but you're right. It might be because Curry's questionable. Maybe the line moved like that. But I think he's going to play. I mean, if he was going to play yesterday, why wouldn't he play today? So I think he's going to play. That would be my guess. Like, what, did he get injured just, sitting around yesterday? Although I'm assuming they practiced and whatever. All right. Dallas and Milwaukee. This is my one basketball play of the day here. Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Did I say that? Speaking of sundown. Yes, it's time for Hornberger. Thank you, Will. Yes, it's time for Hornberger to go to bed. Yes, I believe I did say that, yes. That debate is still out there, I think, on LP Georgia's Rumble page somewhere. I had fun at that debate. I made it fun, and I was one of the only people that had fun with the Trump impersonator, who I guess is friends with Brad Binkley. Is that his name? Yeah, Brad Binkley, right? Yeah, I like that guy. And they both made an appearance at Grove 3 as well. They were there. The Trump impersonator just didn't disrupt, but he interrupted the show to live read Trump's tweet about what was it about? I don't remember what it was. I forget what the Trump tweet was at the time, but it was Trump made some major announcement, and he came out and read the tweet as Trump. It was pretty hilarious. All right. We're going to be in the Milwaukee Bucks, -1. I think the line is moving up a little bit on this. I would look at the money line market on this, too, to see if you can get a better price on the money line. I was considering it because I saw -115 or so on the money line. Money line, I think, is fine as well here. Now, the Bucks flip from a 2-point dog to a 1-point favorite, and I don't really know why. So that's a little bit weird to me, because I'm going to show you in a minute. If anything, I think the line should have moved in the opposite direction. But either way, we're going to play. This is a spot that I like for a whole bunch of reasons. The money's not agreeing with me. 67% of tickets on the Bucks, 59% of the cash on the Mavs here. They're playing Dallas. But look at the spot here, man. I looked at this spot, and I'm like, I'm already leaning to the Bucks just because of the spot. Dallas is on a back-to-back. They just played the Lakers yesterday, and if you look at what happened in this game, Dallas should have won this game. I know they were an underdog, a big road underdog, but the Lakers had the lead for a huge portion of the game into the second half. Lakers basically stopped scoring, and Dallas flipped the script, and Dallas was winning this game by 15 in the fourth quarter, and they wound up losing the game. I mean, that is brutal, and this is a huge game because it's the whole Luka thing. Dallas really wanted that game, I think, man, and this was at home for Dallas. They had the Lakers completely on the ropes. Game looked like it was over, and they lose the game outright. That is brutal, dude. So that's what Dallas is coming off of. That was yesterday, and they have to travel to Milwaukee just for this one game, and there might be a reason why they might overlook Milwaukee even more now. Giannis is out again now, which I'm going to talk about as part of the handicap as well. And they have Minnesota on deck, which I think is a bigger game because it's a Western Conference game. Minnesota's good. So this looks like a sandwich spot. It's also a third game in 4 days, and they beat Golden State as an underdog the game before that. Like I said, Dallas did, and they crushed the Knicks in Madison Square the game before that. So Dallas is on this run of huge games, man, and that loss to LA yesterday ended a 4-game win streak for them, too. So that could also make it more of a hangover spot as well. This is a horrific spot for Dallas here. For Milwaukee, I think the spot is better because they did just lose as a home favorite against Denver. And I know it is Denver. You do get up for a game against Denver, sure. But it was Denver without Jokic. Milwaukee was the favorite in the game. And the game kind of, like I said, it got disrupted because Giannis exited the game. He came back into the game, and he still put up a bunch of stats in the game, but I guess he was not at full strength. He injured his calf again, and he's now out 4 to 6 weeks, even though he played through it in the game on Friday, He's out now for 4 to 6 weeks, so we have an injured player spot now as well. So even without that, I was looking at Milwaukee anyway because I'm like, well, this is the last game of the homestand for Milwaukee, and they lost both other games, so you've got to think they're going to be motivated here. They've lost 5 out of 6 games. No team wants that. They're going to want to try to get a win here. But now that Giannis is out, and this is his first game out after being in the lineup for a while, it's an injured player spot again, man. I'm going to talk about it. Usually the team is going to step up their level of play that first game without their star player there because they know they have to. And usually you get line value on that team because of it. And I still think we are. I mean, we're talking about them playing Dallas here. Like, with Giannis in the lineup, you got to think the Bucks probably would have been a favorite of, I would guess, like 4 points or so in this game. So I do think there is line value on the Bucks here. I think it's a really good spot, and you're basically just picking the winner in the game. I like it, man. Yeah, this game has Milwaukee written all over it for me. That's what we're going to do in this game. And, yeah, I mean, the injury situation, besides the honest thing, I mean, it kind of is what it is. No real change for either team between their previous game and today's game. And, of course, there's a rest edge for Milwaukee as well because they are staying at home and they didn't play yesterday. Dallas played yesterday and have to travel here. And maybe that does kind of factor into why the Bucks are a favorite like this. You know, like they do have to, like the odds makers do have to factor in the rest a bit. There's no doubt about that. But we're just picking the winner here, man. I think it's going to be the Bucks. That's the one play that we have here. All right. And we're going against the market in that one, which I don't love. But I did that with the Kings last night, and we got the win, although it was close. Toronto at Oklahoma City. Yeah, Toronto will get up for this game, obviously, but I think I'm going to have to lean to the Thunder. And if you guys know what they did in their last game, you'll know why. Toronto might start running out of steam a little bit here because they're on a road trip, and they're pretty well-traveled right now. They're playing a... what is this? 4th game in 6 days, I think is what this is here. All on the road. A 5th game in 8 days as well. And a 6th game in 10 days, all in different cities. So that's not easy to do, man. They've already won the road trip. They're 3-1 on the road trip. Sure, they're going to get up for a game against Oklahoma City because it is Oklahoma City. But with all this travel going on for Toronto here, Oklahoma City staying at home in what I think is a major bounce-back spot, I would definitely prefer OKC in this game. OKC just returned home from a road trip, and they had to play Indiana. I should have given out Indiana as a play. I don't know what I was thinking. I think Indiana was also kind of in an iffy spot, I think, in that game. But Oklahoma City was returning home from a road trip, and Indiana still had finals revenge on their mind. So that was a massive game for the Pacers, man. Obviously, I'm going to look to fade the Pacers in their next game, whoever they play, which I don't think has happened yet. So OKC took that loss. They were big favorites in the game. They were probably like 15-point favorites in the game. But again, return home spot, you can get a bit distracted. You have to get back to home life. They probably didn't care that much about Indiana. Indiana definitely wanted the game way more. OKC took the loss. Now they're staying at home. They're in one of those positive spots that I talk about where when you had a bad game in the return home spot, you tend to play a lot better in the next game. I would only play the Thunder in this one, man. And the fact still remains that the Thunder pretty much dominated home, and they win by an average of still like somewhere between 17 and 18 points, probably at home. The money is disagreeing with me, but I would only lay the points in this one. Thunder down from 13 to 11.5 here. 72% of the tickets, 69% of the cash on them. So the market read is saying to take the points, but I do not agree. I would lay it or stay away. It's a stay away for me. And then I guess, I don't know, I got to see if there are injuries going on here. Caruso, Hartenstein are still out for Oklahoma City. That was already the case. I think they already missed the prior game as well. So, and it does look like Toronto did get Barrett back, so they did get one of their better players back. But OKC is just a super deep team, man, too. So yeah, I would still lay it with OKC. I didn't want to fade OKC at home. That's true, but I don't know. That was one of those spots where it was one of the rare spots where it looked like you definitely should. You play the money line. Well, good for you, Jeff. All right, Stacks, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't give that out as a play. I don't know. I could go back and check. I think there was something about the spot for Indiana that didn't quite jive with me because I think just solely Oklahoma City being at home I don't think was enough. Especially because it was a return home spot, so I don't think that would have been enough for me to stay off of Indiana. I think Indiana had to have been, well, I can look right now. Let me see. Oh, yeah, Indiana had played Boston. I think Indiana was on a back-to-back or something, right? Were they? No. No, I don't know what I was thinking. They lost to Boston the game before that, but it wasn't really that close. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I said I just didn't want to fade OKC at home. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking there. Did I completely overlook that it was a return home spot? I don't know, man. I should have played Indiana in that game. My apologies. All right, New Orleans at San Antonio. New Orleans just pulled off an upset on the road at Memphis. They played fairly well the prior 2 games against Houston and Detroit, so New Orleans is playing kind of competitively right now. Now, you could make the argument, well, they played a bunch of pretty tough games in a row, so now they won't have anything left against San Antonio, maybe. Or you could argue that New Orleans is not as bad as they look because they're playing pretty competitively. They should still step up their game for San Antonio. They did play well against San Antonio back on December 8th. I believe we had New Orleans in that game. If I'm not mistaken, it was at New Orleans, and New Orleans only lost by 3. I think the Spurs were in some really bad spot in that game because I think that was a winner for us in that game. But I don't know if that game's going to matter. Like, I don't know if San Antonio is going to remember that and be like, oh, we have to take this team seriously. As far as the spot for San Antonio, they have multiple days off here. They are returning home from a road trip, but it was only a 2-game road trip, the 20th and the 22nd, but they went to Houston. That was a big game. Then they went to Utah, and even off of the Houston game, and having beaten Utah right before that, they beat Utah again on the road. Now, San Antonio is returning home from that. It is still technically a return home spot where you could maybe fall into that distraction spot and not pay attention to your opponent. The one main reason why they might not pay attention to this game, though, is they have Houston on deck on ESPN, and that's a quick revenge spot going right back to the scene where they lost the last game at Houston. That's a big game, man. So it is, at the very least, it is a look-ahead spot for San Antonio here. I would probably have to lean towards taking the points of the Pelicans in this one. The market does agree with that one. The Spurs down from 12 to 11.5. 62% of the tickets, 52% of the cash on the Spurs. They're obviously the public side. Less of the money on them. I'll lean to the Pelicans in that one, but I'm not touching the game. Miami at Phoenix. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah, this show will wind up being about an hour. I'm probably going to talk about the NFL somewhat long, even though it's only 2 games, but we'll talk about side total. I'll give out maybe a couple of prop ideas. Miami at Phoenix here. Miami just blew out Utah yesterday. That's a satisfying win, man. I mean, I know Phoenix is a decent team, but Miami did just beat Phoenix the last time they played them back on January 13th in Miami. Miami is in this rare spot where they're actually playing a 5th game in 7 days, believe it or not, all in different cities, which is very, very difficult. This is the second of 2 back-to-backs since Monday. Brutal scheduling for Miami. And coming off winning by 31 points, I think it's a bad spot for Miami, dude. The problem is I went and I looked at the Phoenix side of things, and I'm like, oh, God, Phoenix is in a bad spot, too. Phoenix is returning home from a road trip. They've been on the road for almost 2 weeks. They've been on the road since January 13th. The road trip did start with that loss to Miami, so maybe they will actually show up for a game against Miami. But Phoenix is returning home from a long road trip, and you know I talk about this. When a team returns home from the road trip, they can get into a distracted spot. There's stuff that has to be done at home. It can add distractions to it. The one thing that might be keeping them from being distracted is that their next game is only against Brooklyn, who they beat on the road trip. But Miami was the loss that started the road trip, and that's who they're playing here in Miami, so they might actually still show up. The 5th game in 7 days is very, very difficult for the Heat, man. Although that's going to be factored into the line. Now, the Suns are up from 2 to 4.5 here. So I'm wondering if there's an injury or if the Heat are resting somebody on the back-to-back. Let me see here. What's going on? I skipped over it. Not really seeing it. Tyler Hero's been out anyway, so he's still out. Green looks like he's a game-time decision for Phoenix. What else is new? Doesn't look like there's really any injury situation that's causing the line to move like that. I think most of it is just because it's a back-to-back for the Heat. 61% of the tickets, 60% of the cash on the Suns. So the public money is a little bit on the Suns side. The market is saying fade the Suns. The return home spot is really, really bad, man. But so is playing a 5th game in 7 days. 5th game in 11 would be easy. 5th game in 7 days is really, really difficult, too. It's very rare that happens in the NBA now. I guess I will lean to taking the points with the Heat because I think the Heat being in a fifth game in 7 days, I think is actually factoring into this line more than the Suns' return home spot is. So I think the line probably is giving you a little bit of value on the Heat in that one, but I have to stay away from that. The Heat are in a horrible spot, and they're on the back-to-back, which is being factored into the line too. So, but I think the return home spot is one of the worst spots that you can be in. And speaking of bad spots, Brooklyn at the Clippers here. Brooklyn just almost beat the Celtics, and the Celtics got a three-pointer at the buzzer in regulation, ascended into overtime from Hugo Gonzalez. After, I believe, the Celtics, I believe, were winning that game easily, I think, at various points in the game, and then they blew the game, and then still won the game. Yeah, so the Celtics were winning the game late in the game. They blew the lead. Had to get a Gonzalez three to send it into overtime. And then Brooklyn wound up just fading in double overtime, man. Really, really brutal loss for Brooklyn to play that tough against the Celtics. Now they got to travel out to the Pacific Coast for a late game. And, I don't love that. I do like the start of a road trip usually because I think a team will be focused to start the road trip. But the fact that it's the first game out on the Pacific Coast for an East Coast team, it can mess with your biological clock. It's late. I don't love that. Obviously, it's bad that they're coming off playing that double overtime game 2 days ago. That's not good either. They have Phoenix on deck, and they did just lose at home to Phoenix back on the 19th. So they might be looking ahead to that game, and then Denver after that. So a lot of things I don't like, although this Clippers team did actually beat Brooklyn on the 9th in Brooklyn as well. So maybe they actually won't overlook the Clippers here in this game. Still a bad spot for Brooklyn, but I go and I look at the Clippers, and it's a bad spot for them too. They just beat the Lakers, so good win for the Clippers, but they're staying at home and they have 2 days off. So the spot is still better for the Clippers, even though you could argue it's a letdown spot. The last time the Clippers beat the Lakers, they beat Houston the next game with the same amount of rest. They stayed at home, very similar spot. They stayed at home and they beat Houston anyway in the next game. But that was Houston. They're a team that you get up for. This is Brooklyn, a team you don't really get up for, so a lot of things to consider there in this game. I think the spot is worse for Brooklyn, though. I would lean to the Clippers in this one. They dropped from 10.5 to 8.5 here. 72% of the tickets, 81% of the cash on the Clippers. Market is seemingly agreeing with the Clippers. I do agree with it. As far as why the line moved like that, I don't know, man. I mean, Leonard is always day-to-day for the Clippers, so I don't know. Bogdanovich seems like he's been out for a while, I think. I think he's never healthy. So, I don't know. But the spot to me looks worse for Brooklyn, so I lean to the Clippers in that one. I just don't want to be on them after they pulled off a big win over the Lakers. But I think, yeah, the spot for Brooklyn is worse. That would be my opinion. All right, let's go to the NFL here, man. AFC Championship is up first. Patriots-Broncos. Really, I don't know if either team necessarily should be here. I mean, that's kind of the crux of this thing is, like, which of these teams is more overrated, really, is what the problem is here, right? Because, yeah, they're the 1 seed and the 2 seed here, but the Patriots played maybe the easiest schedule in NFL history. They beat one team during the regular season with a winning record, and that team also beat them in New England. That was Buffalo. Very, very strange. But now, yeah, of course, the Patriots have won 2 games against winning teams in the playoffs, of course. But that set up really well for the Patriots, man. So the Patriots caught 2 dome teams in cold outdoors for their 2 playoff games. And I talked about how difficult it is for dome teams in cold weather. The history is not good. The last 18 games now, dome teams playing in an outdoor game in, I believe, sub 40 degree weather are 2-16 in those games straight up. And that second win was that was the Rams in the Bears game. So without that Rams win, they had 1 win over the past 15 drives or whatever. And the Patriots had that in effect in both of their games. The Patriots got to play a Chargers team that had no offensive line. Their best offensive lineman out, including Joe Alt, of course. Justin Herbert playing with a broken hand. They just couldn't do anything. And if you remember, the Patriots were still only winning that game 9-3 in the fourth quarter. The Patriots didn't even have a touchdown in that game until really late in the game when they finally got one. It was an ugly, ugly game on both sides. And then the Patriots beat Houston, but really, Houston beat themselves. So already this is factoring into my handicap here, man. Dirty sock, you're on the Broncos. Although I think you're a Broncos fan, right? But I'll put it up right now. You know I'm on the Broncos plus 4.5. You know that. Although I think it looks like you can mostly get 4s out there right now, but the public might drive this number back up a little bit. I don't know. The line was 5.5 at one point, primarily, but 5.5 is kind of a dead number. I think if you get 4.5, even 4, I think is still okay in this one. I think the line is just too high at any of those numbers. But back to what we're talking about here. Part of this handicap is what I'm already talking about. I think the Patriots' wins are misleading. C.J. Stroud, dude, he was horrific in that game against the Patriots, and I think it might have been more him than the Patriots' defense, because the Patriots' defense has been better against the run than the pass this year. The Patriots' defense has been mediocre. I know I was saying it was bad, but the Patriots, they've had a bad red zone defense this year, actually one of the worst in football. And they've been decent at stopping the run and not very good against the pass. So I don't know. We'll talk about how that factors into the game today, I guess. Well, I don't think it factors. I don't know how much that factors into the game, because that might help, because Denver has a quarterback that nobody wants to back with their money in this game. And the Patriots aren't that great against the pass, so maybe Stidham maybe will actually do okay in this game. The Broncos aren't really that much of a running team anyway, even though I thought they were going to focus on the run a bit more last week. They were able to win without doing it. But, yeah, so we'll see. But the Patriots do slow down the run. That's kind of what they do. So we'll see if the Broncos are able to establish the run. And that might be the one concern with the Broncos, that they might struggle to establish the run. And, of course, they're going to try to do it to take the load off of the quarterback here. But, dude, C.J. Stroud threw that game away. He was so bad in the game that I saw a stat on this. If C.J. Stroud had spiked the football on every play, he would have had a higher QBR in that game than he did. That's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. He threw a pick 6 in the game. I think he had 4 interceptions in the game. Patriots had 3 offensive touchdowns in the game, but one was set up by a short field as well. Or I think at least one was. Maybe 2 of them were. Houston was winning that game close to halftime. They'd taken a 10-7 lead, and then Stroud picked 6 right away, and then the game is just completely swung in the opposite direction. And even with that, Houston was still within 5 points, by the way, in that game late in the game. The Patriots put up a late touchdown that put it away. It was 21-16, I'm pretty sure, in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, I mean, that game wasn't really what it appeared on the scoreboard, man. It looks like the Patriots scored a lot against the Houston defense. They did not really. It was C.J. Stroud handing them scores pretty much. It was one of the worst quarterback performances in playoff history from Stroud. There's no way around that. He was awful. Yeah, I mean, they should have put in Davis Mills, dude. I don't know why they didn't. Mills is better than Stroud at this point. Mills is one of the highest paid backups, which I'm going to talk about that when we talk about the Broncos here as well. Mills would have done better than Stroud did in that game. There's no doubt about that. Stroud, his career might be over. I wouldn't want him as my starter at all. Even though I have my Stroud jersey, I might have to burn it. But I just like the Houston pissing off the Tennessee fans by having the Oilers colors on with one of their jerseys. I like the colors. That's what I like. Anyway, back to this game. Stroud was so bad that he masked how bad Drake May was. So let's talk about that. As far as, yes, we're going to be on Denver here, like I said, plus the points. Drake May has been awful in the playoffs so far. He's won 2 games, but look at what he's done. He's had 6 turnovers in 2 games, Drake May has. He's had 6 fumbles. They lost 3 of the fumbles, and he's thrown 3 interceptions with 4 touchdowns. That is not good. And Denver is the number 1 team in the NFL in sacks, so they pressure the quarterback a lot. So that's not a good setup for Drake May, who's not able to hold on to the football right now in these playoff games. He's now having to play a first road playoff game of his career. That's not easy at all. In high elevation, which he's not used to. And he's going to be facing like the leading pass rush in the NFL out of Denver here. he definitely could be liable to make some mistakes in this one, man. So that is a problem for the Patriots, and that's definitely a problem if you're trying to lay points on the road. And let's talk about this number. I think there's a ton of line value in this number. Before the Bo Nix injury, of course, we know we have to talk about the Bo Nix injury, of course, obviously. But you know me. I'm going to play on the team with the injured player theory as part of this. Bo Nix got hurt. Very strange situation where he finished the game last week against Buffalo, but I guess he broke his ankle on one of the final plays of the game. Still made a completed pass after that, and then did the kneel down to set up the winning field goal. Very, very strange. So he's not playing. Okay. Now, we had lines for this game before that. There were look-ahead lines because, you know, the sports books will put out the look-ahead lines. Like, they'll let you bet lines like a week in advance, especially on these playoff games. Like, you can bet lines on the Super Bowl right now with all the hypothetical Super Bowl matchups. And I can tell you right now that if the Broncos win this game, they're an 8.5 point underdog against either the Rams or Seahawks in the Super Bowl. So that is a big line. The Patriots are only like a 3.5 or 4 point underdog against either the Rams or the Seahawks. So something interesting there with those hypotheticals. But the hypothetical for this game was Broncos -1.5 with Bo Nix playing. Okay, so the Broncos are a 1.5 point favorite. Now we're saying that the line moves 6 points basically off of that to 4.5 here. I know the points going through 0 are worth a little bit less. I get that. So it's not through too many key numbers, but it is still through the 0 and through the 3, of course, and a 4 basically, which those are key numbers. And I don't think it's warranted because you're talking about the question is, what is the drop off from Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham? The question is not what is Bo Nix worth, and I don't think there's a 6 point drop off here. I think Stidham is being undervalued here in the market. The market, as I always point out, the injured player theory is that the market overreacts to a quarterback going down. The line moves too much to account for it, and the public actually overreacts to it as well. Though we see here, Patriots are only somewhat public, 61% of tickets, 65% of the cash on them. But I can tell you, like, every professional that I've listened to likes Denver in this one, and that was my thought immediately. And before I listened to any of those guys, I was like, Denver's going to be a play here. There's no doubt about this. And that just all listening to the professionals all week just confirmed my thinking on this. It's actually, yeah, I think it's one of the stronger plays that I've seen. So hopefully it gets here. Now, Bo Nix, he's a mediocre quarterback, dude. He's not one of those guys. He's not an elite level quarterback that goes out there and carries the team. You know what I mean? The Broncos play as a team. They have a lot of role players. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So that's how they win. And yes, as I said, I know the Broncos are a bit overrated this year. They won a lot of close games, but they also did not lose by margin a lot. Every game of theirs was pretty close. The only game that they lost by more than, I think, 3 or 4 points all year was that game against Jacksonville a few weeks ago. And Jacksonville was just super motivated in that game. It was kind of a weird spot, whatever. Other than that, the Broncos have not lost by more than like a few points in any game this year. Now, yes, they also didn't win by margin, but we're taking them as a big home underdog here. So I like all of that as well. The Broncos did face a weak schedule, but not as weak as the Patriots. And as far as the drop-off between Nix and Stidham, Nix, again, he's like a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. He's only in his second full year, so how much is he really worth here? Jarrett Stidham has been in the NFL for longer. I know he's a backup, but he is the third highest paid backup in the NFL. I know I was talking about Davis Mills. Mills, I think, might be the highest. Stidham is the third highest paid backup in the NFL, and there's a reason for that. And Denver has refused to trade him. So why is that? Like, Sean Payton explicitly went out and got him. He wanted Jarrett Stidham, got him from the Raiders. He's been in this system since then. Stidham, even though I don't even think he's actually taken a snap in an actual game with Denver in his tenure here since 2023 or whatever, there was a reason why Sean Payton wanted him, and he's been in this system the whole time. So what does that mean? That means he knows the system. He's the backup. So his job is, if there's an injury to the starting quarterback, I have to know the system. I have to be ready to get in there. So I think he's really being overlooked here, man, because He knows the system. He's a high paid backup quarterback, and there's a reason why Sean Payton was refusing to trade him and explicitly went out and got him. And I think it's because he likes the fit. Jarrett fit him. He likes the fit in the system. So I don't think he's going to be a huge drop off from Nix here. I think probably the drop off is probably. It should probably be closer to like a 3-point drop off, maybe. But a 6 or 5.5 is kind of ridiculous. So that's what I think about that. And if you look at their career numbers, I know Stidham hasn't played in a real NFL game for a couple of years, but his QBR in his career is only slightly worse than Nix's. Nix's is like 90 and Stidham's is 88. So he's not that bad. Yeah, Nix might be able to do a few more things with his legs and whatever. Stidham's not a complete statue either, though. Like, he has a little bit of mobility. So, I don't know, man. And again, I think it's going to be kind of a game management type of thing. And the other thing that's good about Stidham might have to be a game manager here. You can rely on the defense as long as you keep the game close. We don't need them to win the game, although personally I actually think Denver is going to win this game. But, yeah, I mean, Sean Payton's going to come up with some schemes where Stidham is not going to have to shoulder the complete load here. The defense can help them in the game, obviously. Broncos have the better defense, and you know what I talk about, better defense getting points. That's what you have in this game with the Broncos. Even though the Patriots' defense has been decent recently, the Broncos still are the better defense here. Patriots are definitely the better offense, but better defense getting points at home like that. The other thing about Stidham being in here is that the Patriots have no game film on him. There is no game film on him playing with Denver in an actual game. So the Broncos have an unknown factor that benefits them here. It's a disadvantage for the Patriots because how do you prepare for a quarterback that hasn't played in an NFL game in this system yet? You don't know what they're going to do. So that makes preparation more tough for the Patriots. Patriots have to travel here. Going out to Mile High, not easy to do. The Patriots have historically been pretty bad in Mile. I think Tom Brady never won a playoff game in Denver. I think he was like 0-3 or 0-4 or something in Denver. So I know this is not Tom Brady. It's Drake May. Oh, he's better than Tom Brady. What? No. But yeah, I mean, the Patriots have historically struggled in playoff games in Denver. I don't know if it's the elevation. I don't know what it is exactly, but they haven't done well in Denver in playoff situations. Denver has the extra rest, and that does mean something in this round of the playoffs. Denver played on Saturday, of course, right? Patriots played on Sunday, and when you have the home team in a conference championship in the NFL and they have the rest advantage like that, they're 21-7 straight up. That's the history there. So the team, if the home team has the rest advantage in the conference championship, 21-7 straight up. So we have that going for us with the Broncos here. Now, also, I think the line actually was wrong when the line came out at -1.5 is what it would have been with Nix. That line also didn't make sense because the Broncos were just -1.5 last week against Buffalo. So you're telling me that the Patriots are as good as Buffalo? They're not. I know Buffalo got eliminated from the playoffs, but we just saw Buffalo played at New England like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Buffalo was a favorite in New England, and they won. And that was one of my plays on the show. So what are we talking about here? Like, if Buffalo played New England on a neutral, they'd probably be like a 2 to 3 point favorite now. So, and that line indicated in the game against New England back then indicated they probably should have been about like a 3 point favorite on a neutral as well. So this line probably shouldn't have been 1.5 to begin with. With Nix, it probably should have been like probably 2.5. I don't know if you give them the full 3, maybe. So I think that line was already shortchanging the Broncos. So I like that as well. The Broncos, as it stands right now, are the biggest home underdog in NFL history in a conference championship game. So there's like no precedent for having an underdog this big in this round of the playoffs as a home team, which is insane. But that seems to indicate there's going to be some value on Denver for that reason as well. Home dogs are really good in the playoffs. Home dogs, I believe, home dogs of 4 or more are 10-0 in the last like 50 years in the playoffs against the spread. 6-4 straight up. 10-0 against the spread, and one of the spread winners was this year, Carolina against the Rams. So that's the only instance I think that we've had this year. But yeah, so home dogs of 4 or more in the playoffs do really, really well as well. So that's another stat that we have going for us here. We have a lot of statistics going for us here, man. I was trying to run through this all in a more concise way. I feel like I was all over the place with that analysis, but yeah, I think that's probably all I got for this one. Hopefully those stats, I mean, when I saw them all, I'm like, yeah, holy crap, this is a great spot for Denver. That's what we're doing, man. And you know the public has a tendency to like the better offense, too. But, of course, they're going to jump on the team that doesn't have the injured quarterback. Oh, it's Drake May versus the Stidham guy. What? Oh, one other thing. Stidham, he was drafted by the New England Patriots. That was the first team that he played with in the NFL, and they traded him away. And he has a chance to beat them in a conference championship game. You don't think he's going to be a little bit extra motivated for that reason? The team might rally around him for that reason. He gets to take a shot at the team that didn't want him, because he was supposed to be the backup for Tom Brady, and then they did not go in that direction. And then I think Josh McDaniels had left and brought him over to the Raiders or whatever, and then the Raiders wound up trading him. He gets a shot at McDaniels in this game too. So huge. There's a little bit of a revenge motive there from the side of Stidham there. So, yeah, we're absolutely going to do it. We're on the Broncos plus the points. I think they win the game outright. Zach, what's up, man? Bo is definitely overrated. 2 of May's fumbles were blindside hits. Okay, well, so the Patriots' offensive line sucks then. Yeah, that's the other thing. Denver has a huge line advantage here. Yeah, one of the interceptions was a chuck at the end of the half or whatever. Don't care. Mac Hollins is back. Also don't care. Whatever. He's one of their wide receivers. I completely disagree with you. I've done this for like 20 years, man. I'm telling you, there's huge value on the Broncos here, and I think they win the game outright. I do not trust the Patriots in a spot like this whatsoever. No, I do not. And any way you look at it, May has been struggling in the playoffs. Stidham will be mentally ready, and dude, he doesn't even have great talent, and he doesn't need it. That's the whole point here. Bo Nix doesn't have great talent. Stidham is not a huge drop-off from Bo Nix. That is the whole thing. Stidham has been in the league longer and has been in this system for like 3 years. So he knows what he's doing. He knows the system. And that's it. He's really not, like, this Patriots defense is really not that formidable. So Stidham does not need to shoulder the load as long as the Broncos defense and the rest of the team plays up to their end of the bargain here. Doesn't need to happen. So Stidham does not need to be great in this game, especially for the Broncos to cover, especially. The total in this game is a little bit weird. The total is gone up. It's gone up from 41 to 43. 52% of tickets on the over, 55% of the cash, on the under, 55% of the cash on the under. Now, my first instinct on this was going to be, well, this looks like an under game. The Broncos just had a really, really high-scoring game in their last game. Patriots just put up 28. So my first thought about this was this is going to be an under game. We're looking at Broncos defense. Both offenses look like they could maybe struggle a little bit in this game. So I think an under, from that perspective, makes sense. The problem is the line dropped on the total because of the quarterback injury, right? So I think the total might have been a bit of an overreaction to the Bo Nix injury, just like I think the side was. I think that's why the total dropped all the way to 41, and that's why I think some professional money started hitting the over on the 41, but 41 is a key number, so now that it's 43, I would probably start leaning back towards an under here in this one, but if I was kind of leaning towards an over at 41 because I was like, well, that's an overreaction to the quarterback injury, right? But yeah, I mean, it's a very, very tricky total handicap in this. So I don't want anything to do with it, but with the total. But yeah, I would start leaning slightly under at 43, but at 41, I was leaning over. So that's how tight these lines are, man, especially in the playoffs. But I do think the initial line was an over or an under reaction. No, it was an overreaction to the injury. As far as props are concerned, I was going to say Stidham over his passing yardage, I think, was one of the better ways to look for props in this game because, again, it's all about fading the overreaction and the injury. People was like, who is the Stidham guy? Like, he's going to suck, whatever. But I already told you the Patriots are better against the run than the pass. And Stidham is probably going to be having to do something with his arm in this game. And his passing yardage prop came out at like 198, I'm pretty sure. So that was an extremely low number. It's now all the way up to 209, though. So that's kind of the problem. At that point, it's getting a little bit iffy at 209. A lot of these props in these big playoff games can move a lot on these player props. So, that was going to be my recommendation. If it was at like 203 where I saw it yesterday, I was like, that seems decent to go over that. At 209, I'm not quite sure about it. But I think Stidham was definitely getting shortchanged on his passing yardage total there. And if you look at like the trends, like as far as like what Denver's put up for passing yards, I know he's not Bo Nix, so he's not that much of a drop off from him. Denver's put up more passing yards than that, at least in most of their games. So I think he could definitely go over that. So there is that factor as well. I think that's about it for that game. Rams-Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. Don't have a play on this one. The Seahawks are a 2.5-point favorite. 51% of tickets, 58% of the cash on the Seahawks. I really thought the public was going to be really heavy on the Seahawks in this game. That was my first instinct because look at what the teams did last week. The Seahawks won 48-6 or whatever, 41-6, whatever it was. They blew out the 49ers. They looked really, really good. So I'm like, the public is going to be all over the Seahawks here. And the Rams didn't look good. The Rams haven't looked good at all in the playoffs. They barely got by Carolina, and then they barely got by Chicago in a snow game that was really ugly. But I do think the weather kind of did have an impact on that one. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the weather. Patriots-Broncos, it's going to be cold, and I guess there is some snow potential there, but both teams are used to it, so I don't really think it's an advantage one way or the other for Patriots and Broncos. I think it's not really an advantage one way or the other in that game. Let's just put it that way. But it will be cold in that game. But if it gets super cold, that might start affecting the offense a little bit because the grip on the football starts to get a little bit iffy there. Rams-Seahawks, there's not really going to be any weather-related stuff going on here. It looks like it might rain, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. Rain gets overrated, but the fact that the total didn't really move based on the weather, I don't think the weather is going to be much of a concern at all here. I think it's going to be a little bit cool and potentially rainy in this one. Now, again, as I was saying, I thought the Seahawks are going to be massively public because they blew out the 49ers. The Rams barely got by both their opponents. Rams only put up whatever it was, 20 points against Chicago, unfortunately. So I'm 0-3 with my NFL playoff plays so far. Green Bay absolutely should not have been a loss. So I'm pissed about it. And we got kind of screwed on the Rams play, too, in the end of it with the stupid Caleb Williams back-footing, from the 50-yard line or whatever the hell it was. Not 50, but like the 40. Where he ran backwards like 20 yards and then back-footed it. And then the defender just ran away from I thought it was Loveland. It wasn't. It was Komet. Loveland was actually injured, I guess, and was out of the game, but whatever. That play just shouldn't have even happened, man. So we should have had the Rams. Green Bay, obviously, we absolutely should have had. And then, yes, I was definitely wrong about the Eagles, but yes. Whatever. Talking about this game again, though, I was thinking the Rams are going to be the overlooked commodity in this one because everybody focuses on what they saw last, and everybody likes those high-scoring teams. And last week, that was the Seahawks. So I was starting to lean towards the Rams. I do still lean to the Rams in this game. I think there are some other things going for the Rams here as well. The Rams are a team that is being led by a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and that has been a good moneymaker in the playoffs. And you have a guy who has won a Super Bowl already, and he's an underdog in the playoffs. That is a good way to look, although I know Aaron Rodgers didn't get it done this year, but that is one of the trends that the Rams have going for them. I forget what the number actually is, but it's somewhere like 60% range, I think, against the spread, I think is what it is. So Stafford has that going for him. But all that to say, the Rams have more experience here. They have the more experienced quarterback, quite obviously, and they have a Super Bowl winning coach here. So a huge game like this may wind up coming down to experience, and I'd probably rather have the more experienced guys getting points, and that is the Rams. Normally, I like the better defense, and that is the Seahawks here. So the Seahawks do have the better defense. There are some concerns about their offense. I think the Rams might be a little bit more balanced as a team. The Rams have the number one offense in football, believe it or not, the way they looked last week. They have probably still like a top 10 defense, although the Seahawks are like a top 1 or 2 defense. So, yes, the Seahawks have a defensive edge, and I do usually like defense. I just don't know if we could trust Sam Darnold when it comes down to it, man. I know he's looked all right in the playoffs. I mean, that 49ers game just got completely out of hand, though. And then, what was the other game that they won? I don't even remember. No, they didn't win another game. That was the only game they played in the playoffs so far, right? They did beat the 49ers to get the 1 seed, though. But I still don't know if we could trust Sam Darnold. He's been bad against Sean McVay, dude. If you want to look at Darnold's numbers against McVay, well, I thought I had them up. I don't have them up right now. He's thrown at least 1 interception in every game. I'll just talk about the prop that I like right now. I would play Darnold to throw an interception in this game. It's around minus 140, so it is a little bit of a favorite there, but I think it's justified because Darnold, he faced the Rams twice this year, and he threw 5 picks in the 2 games. And when he faced Sean McVay's defense last year in the playoffs with the Vikings, he threw a pick in that game too, and he was terrible in the game. So I think there's a high likelihood he throws at least 1 pick in this game. So that's probably my favorite prop in this game. Darnold to throw an interception. Now, back to this game, though. Yes, Darnold could potentially struggle in this one. And actually, let me bring it up because I do want to bring up what happened because this is one of the rare situations where we have teams playing in the playoffs that already played twice during the regular season. I mean, well, it's not that rare, I guess, but it is a divisional. It's rare enough. It's a divisional conference championship. We did have one last year, interestingly, in the NFC. And before that, I think it had been quite a while. Now, if we look at the games that these two teams played against each other this year, they were like complete different ends of the spectrum in really weird ways. The Rams won the first game at home by 2, but if you look at this game, the Seahawks were the better team in the game. The Seahawks outgained the Rams 414 to 249, but Darnold threw 4 picks in the game, and that's why they lost the game. The Seahawks actually dominated the game statistically, dominated time of possession, dominated first downs, but lost the game. So that would seem to indicate, well, Seattle's better than they looked in that game. That's true. But then the most recent game they played, which was on a Thursday night, the Seahawks really should have lost this game to the Rams. I know I gave out the Seahawks as a play in this game. Should have been money line. That was bad. I mean, I thought that, obviously, I didn't think they were going to win by 1. Just totally ridiculous. But the Seahawks definitely should have lost this game, dude. They were losing this game 30-14 with 8 minutes left. They had a punt return for a touchdown. Got the ball back really quick. Got it again. Got another touchdown. They got 2-point conversions on both of those to tie the game. And then they gave up a touchdown in overtime. And they wound up winning by going for a 2-point conversion on their touchdown in overtime. Totally ridiculous, man. The Rams had this game pretty much in hand. And yes, the Seahawks do have the better special teams, but I don't think you can make a handicap completely on special teams because it's not that huge of a part of the game. But yes, Rashid Shaheed seems like he's returning punts for touchdowns, kicks for touchdowns in every game. It almost seems, but I think it's probably unlikely that he's going to do it in any given game. But if you look at what happened in this game, the Rams actually dominated this game statistically. So the Rams were winning the game by a ton towards the end of the game, but they also outgained Seattle 581 to 415. And this was the game in Seattle. So we have a weird situation where the home team won both games, but the road team dominated both games statistically. Very, very strange. And the Seahawks were -3 in turnovers in this game as well. So I don't know how, it's ridiculous that they won this game. The Rams had the first down edge in the game. They dominated possession. So it was like a tale of 2 different games here. But this was the more recent game, and this was the game in Seattle. So the Rams were the way better team in the game in Seattle, and this was the last time the teams played. So I think this might set up for the Rams making some adjustments to that. And this was a misleading result because the Rams I had the game wrong, so I probably deserved the loss anyway, even though it would have been a win on the money line. Rams were the better team in the game. It was a misleading result. You can see it right here, the percentage chance to win the game. It was like all Rams, and then all of a sudden, oh, shit, there's Seattle winning the game. Yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, that's basically what I have to say about this previous game. Although the one other thing that I will say is that the Seahawks have actually not been as good at home under McDonald's tenure. They've actually been a better road team. I know they were okay at home this year, 6-2, but the Seahawks have actually been better on the road than at home, which is interesting. The Rams were at least above 500 on the road. So I definitely have some concerns with Seattle. Like I said, I do lean to the Rams plus the 2.5 in this one. I don't think we're going to get 3. Charbonnet is out for Seattle. He injured his ACL in the last game, so he's going to be out. So it's going to be Kenneth Walker III, man, is going to be shouldering the load, but I don't think that's a huge blow to Seattle. I mean, Walker's the guy that basically shoulders the load anyway. Usually he's the guy, but if you want to look for Walker props over or something, I'm sure the lines have adjusted to that. But yeah, like Walker over his rushing yardage or over rushing attempts might make sense. Although if the Rams are winning, the Seahawks might have to abandon the runs. That does worry me a little bit. If this is similar to the last game, the Seahawks might have to be putting the load on Darnold, and then that becomes a problem. If the Rams are winning, I don't know that the Seahawks have another one of those pull a rabbit out of a hat type of wins left in them, man. And again, we've seen what Darnold has done in these high-pressure situations. I guess he did okay in the game against the 49ers a couple of weeks ago, and yes, like the last week, he didn't have to do anything. Like, the Seahawks defense kind of carried the day, and it was just over anyway. But if this is a close-ish game and it comes down to Darnold having to do it in the playoffs, again, like I said, that's why I like the Rams here. I don't trust him. I trust Stafford more, even though Stafford is kind of old and playing through some injuries, but I trust the experience, man. So I do like the Rams here. The one thing the Seahawks do have going for them is they have the same thing that the Broncos have. They're in that spot where they're a rested team at home because the Seahawks did play on Saturday. I'm pretty sure, right? The Seahawks, wait, did they? Yeah, they played on Saturday. The Rams played on Sunday. I'm pretty sure that's right. So the Seahawks are the more rested team at home. And like I said, that's a 21-7 straight up trend in the playoffs. So that is a trend that is on the Broncos and the Seahawks here today. So that there is that. I'm not playing the side in this one. I'm staying away. But I like the Rams in this one. And as far as the total, I like the under, but we've lost the best number here. 47 is a key number. It opened 47.5. So it was not overreacting to, like, if there's going to be any rain or whatever. I think if there's a little bit of rain, it doesn't matter at all. Slick surfaces actually make the defense maybe a little bit worse because they slip when they try to react to the offense. Total's down to 46 now, though. If you like the under, I would probably wait because the public is coming in on the over, and this game isn't until 6:30, so maybe a 47 will show again. Probably not, though, because it's already going down to 46 juice to the under. I'll still slightly lean to the under, but you're not getting the best of it anymore. 76% of the tickets and 74% of the cash on the over. Again, I think people are going to see what they saw last, right? Like, oh, the Rams and Seahawks just had a 38-37 final or whatever, and they're going to only go over in this game, and they're going to see that the Seahawks just put up 40 whatever last week. Public's, just going to play the over in this one, but I see this being a bit lower scoring. I see this being more of a physical game, and I know the first game between these teams was misleadingly low scoring, I know, because of all the turnovers. It was 21-19, but the last game was higher scoring than I think it maybe should have been. I mean, of course, it did go into overtime. We had 2 touchdowns in overtime, but the game was pretty high scoring anyway, even without overtime, but I don't really see that happening again. That was a Thursday night game where sometimes the defenses are they're on short rest. They don't play as well, and I know I do talk about in those Thursday night games, though, the defenses usually do play a little bit better on that short prep time when they know their opponents. So I was kind of surprised that game was that high scoring, but that's also a factor here. These defenses know each other well, so these defenses both can prepare. So that makes sense as far as the under is concerned as well, that the defenses pretty much know what to prepare for here, and they can do that. So, and they have the full week of preparation time for it, so that makes sense. As far as the Seahawks having that bit of rest edge or whatever, that is true, and they are staying at home where the Rams are having to travel again, and the Rams are having to do the difficult task of winning 3 road games in the playoffs, which it's been done before, but it's rare. So the Rams are having to do that here, which is difficult because all that travel does kind of add up. Although they haven't crisscrossed the country or anything like that multiple times. They went Carolina, Chicago, and now Seattle. Now they're back in their own time zone, so it's not as bad. And they're going to a place that they play every year, so they're familiar with the venue, so it's a little bit less bad. So lean to the Rams, lean to the under. And yeah, the prop that I would prefer is Darnold interception, yes. Or if you find a market that has like Darnold a half interception over the half and it's a better number that way, like you can look at different markets and figure out how to play it at a better price. But that's what I would do in this one. That's going to do it, man. Long show. Trying to give you, some NFL stuff and, focus on the NFL a bit there. It's going to do it. Once again, only 2 plays today. Milwaukee Bucks -1 or money line if you can find it. Denver Broncos plus the points. It was 4.5. I don't know if we're going to see the 4.5s out there anymore. It's mostly 4s out there. But I think it's still worth it to do it. So that's what we're going to do here. Hopefully we can get it. That's going to do it, man. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe. Give me good comments on the channel here. Listen on audio. Review on audio. That helps me out as well. Give me a good review, hopefully, on Spotify and Apple. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. You can check that out. Patreon.com/LearnToToad and get some bonus Uke stuff. And we'll be back on Tuesday with Loser Cast. I got to figure out who my loser selection is going to be this week. That's the new comedy show that I'm on. So check that out as well. That's going to do it. Enjoy all the games today. Snow is starting here. It was supposed to start 10 to 11 a.m. today. So we're going to see how deep we're going to be into this here up here in New England, Massachusetts coast here, man. We're supposed to get 2 to 3 feet. I don't know what's going to happen here. I think it sounds like it was a dud as far as like some of the more southern states yesterday, getting not a whole lot of anything. It sounds like a lot of it was more of a mix or whatever. That's not going to be the case here as far as the mix is concerned because it is cold up here. It's like in the teens probably, so we're definitely getting snow. So we'll see. That's going to do it. Peace, everybody. And it could be a snow game in New England, too. Imagine that. It could have been Buffalo, New England in the snow. That would have been crazy. And I would probably be leaning towards Buffalo again in that one if that was the case. But it was not to be. That's going to do it. Thank you, sir. Thanks for hanging out as always. All right. Peace, everybody.